blessing to nations. Now, I know you work with a lot of other business leaders, and you were telling me that there's this vision growing in a collaborative vision growing amongst business leaders that you're walking with of even transforming cities. Can you give some examples of how, even in collaboration, you can do more together than you could alone?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Stacey. I think to be kingdom minded, when you really put yourself in the mindset as a king, the resources of an economy are a function of the interplay of all of us, whether it's individuals or businesses. So we all want people to do well at that level. And so we have been working with people to say, how do we come together to tackle the issues? I think we all learned in this pandemic that we maybe delegated things to people that didn't share our values. And I've seen people take on education and say, we need to do this differently in our city. I might not be able to change the nation today, but in my city, we're going to tackle this, or my county, we're going to do this because we have the ability to rally people to make an impact. I think that's the city on the hill. We're called to demonstrate the gospel, as you so often say, Stacey, is when we do that collectively, I believe there's a power unleashed that isn't understandable with our human mind. And it's because we've entered into a place that God has ordained to bring blessing. And so I believe we're actually going to see in the next 10 years cities that stand out substantially different because they've chosen to display righteousness. They've chosen to care for those people who are disadvantaged, but they've done it not with a handout. They've done it by pulling people up and demonstrating that the gospel is living and real, and it can have an impact in their life.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I was thinking of something when you were talking that uh, when we work together to actually solve problems. Now, when you walk into a room or when you are working with other people that are in your sphere of influence, in banking, in finance, in economics, yeah, are they worried about finances? Because the Bible says, like, don't worry, be anxious for nothing, but
Yeah.
in everything by prayer and supplication make your requests known to God. And so when you walk in, do you inspire people to find a solution when there's a problem? How does that work? How does that work? And I know you are involved at higher levels getting people to change a city. Can you give us a concrete example of that? How do you do it yourself in your sphere of influence?
Certainly we've encountered difficulty in this season. You'd have to have your head in the sand not to realize that people have had to make changes in their business. And what I've tried to encourage, um, and I'll use very practical examples in businesses, where they've lost 20 or 30% of their revenue in this time period, they've had to adjust. They've had to move to more takeout business, or they've had to do more through the internet than they ever dreamed they would do. And fear tends to make us huddle in and hold on to and not look beyond ourselves. And so when we encounter that, it's really, what options do we have? When we open ourselves up to new ideas, I look back in my career during the difficult times, our businesses were always made better, because in the good times you take things for granted, but during the difficult times you begin to inspect and say, should I spend money on that? Is that working? Maybe I should do it in a different place. And so I think it's really important that we're willing to change up our game during those kind of times and allow the creativity that God put inside of us, allow the ingenuity, allow other people to maybe bring ideas to you in that time so that we shift where we're focused.
Wow. And um, uh, you understand that in a very day-to-day manner where people are suffering. And I think you brought another great point up, because they are suffering because they couldn't do business the way they did it before. And they have to find creative new ways of doing business that they've maybe never done before. And like this. So we have never done these types of programs online ever. And we have this steep learning curve. And no matter how many programs we do, we still have these little technical difficulties because we're still learning how to do this technical thing. But it's birthed an ability to reach more people more often, more regularly, with new innovative ideas. Wesley came up with a bunch of ideas during this season that we couldn't have done in the past season when we were traveling all the time. So you're saying that in a time of crisis, when there's great changes going on, stop, pause, ask God for wisdom, and he will give it liberally, not hold back, and creativity will come to you to do things in a new way.